subject. Yesterday, we had a sequence of presentations about the experiences that we've all faced in different agencies and institutions of the membership in member states. Fanuel also had a section in which he narrated his experience of the creation of the four handbooks that we've been creating together. And it's been a joint initiative, but Fanuel will take the floor at some point, and I'll read a bio of our keynote speaker today, who's Fanuel. Mr. Fanuel Anandias is an expert in children's books, and he's a member of the Venezuelan Language Academia. He's also a professor, teacher, winner of the Children's Book Literature Expert Prize. He's been celebrated. He has received the Tatulu Prize Award in France, Pedrito Botero Acknowledgement Award as well. He's been coordinating the book fair at Bogota, Colombia, and he's also coordinated the Children's Book Festival at Bogota, Colombia. He's edited the magazine called or for children. He's also received the Denmark's Hans Christian Andersen acknowledgements and many others from Bratislava and Slovakia. He has been part of many conferences about children's literature in Europe, Latam, and Asia. Besides this, he has drafted and he's the author of 6 children's books and 8 for children's development. And now the floor is open for Afanuel. And I'd like to, well, congratulate Krishna Kuchnakla, who's also a co-author of some of these books or documents, and I thank him for having joined this conference. After Fanuel, maybe Krishna can take the floor, or maybe Krishna Kuchkatlat could take the floor now. Let's see. You can take the floor if you want, but they're not letting him. 1 second.
A ver.
What do you think? Where do you want to go? Which regular like both go and back?
Krishna.
Sí, aquí estoy.
Krishna, okay, yes, I'm here. Thank you. My pleasure. Well, Krishna is not taking the floor, so the Fanuel will take the floor. And thank you for joining us during today's event. We're very proud of this initiative. Thank you, Fanuel, for talking about these beautiful 4 handbooks that we've done. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having joined this session. Thank you for paying close attention to this simple presentation. And in it, we contain the information about the material that's taken shape after a long path or journey towards its creation. It took us almost 2 years to create this. We first created the concept, the idea. It all started with that idea, which was very interesting. We considered or were contemplating and we were thinking about what to do. We had a specific desire. The Interamerican Conference had the desire to create these package of books along with the General Secretary Álvaro Velarca. We wanted to create the sequence of technical documents that are formal. They've been created for adults, and we wanted to unbundle the data so it could be also processed by kids in their early stages, by our youth. So we thought about giving shape to this idea to meet the requirement, to achieve the process. And in the books, we embedded the idea of social security for children. So it's been a challenge because when we speak of social security in general, we consider that social security is exclusively a list of benefits. When there's a formal regulated contract that's signed by the employer and the employee, and there's protection by law when a person suffers an accident at the workplace, and social security is something that's used in specific timeframes of life when a mother's on leave because she's expecting a child or a baby. Social Security is a way in which we acknowledge the elders when they retire that can enjoy their pension for retirement, or the relatives that survive their significant other's death. And when the significant other dies, then there's a pension given to the widowed party. But we think about Social Security. Social Security is very broad in its spectrum. So we analyze our societies where Social Security must exist under the principle of equity, to have societies that are fair and square. So we must speak about the plural cultures that exist around it in Social Security, and taking care of your body from early ages. Because if a person doesn't take care of him or herself, then somehow that subject is going to be worn out or affected, because maybe people end up consuming unlawful substances, and that generates problems in society, problems that are absorbed by Social Security services. So we outlined the project. The frame of the project and the concept was created, and it was a lot of fun. It's a happy book. So this product is not just a sequence of documents or books that have specific elements or components. So the books contain elements of fun, playfulness, that are functional for a kid that's reading, so they can really enjoy the content of the material when they hold the books in their hands. And kids can feel that that's a book that can generate enthusiasm, pleasure, joyfulness, that are traits of all children when growing up, so they can consume the material. Now, in reality, this project or this mission started, and it was created to touch the different Latin American realities that have specific profiles. These have been created for kids that are in their early stages of life and the process of learning and their development. We think about culture, marginalized situations of our kids' profiles in different contexts. So the material that these books contain can lead us to really somehow have the content for the three profiles of kids. So we opened this another part of a mission to create these postcards, or these like postcards that have these images that hold stories. So we created, or our minors or created these books, or these images. Mariana Alcantara is one of the creators of the images you see on the slides. And we created all of this celebration for authors or creative examiners that can draft these types of books. So Social Security is embraced by also imagination and festivities. And that's in these books. We invite the kids who are part of the workshop to create micro stories based on Social Security. So they have to storytell Social Security and create drawings. So the project started creating these drawings that you see. So that was just key. So we started analyzing what was happening with our kids in the population, in the classroom, and we discussed these matters with our professors and kids. So we created the ideal Social Security handbook. Now, we analyzed this phase by phase. There was a phase of diagnostic compilation of information. We celebrated the creation of these postcards that enabled us to work in the diagnostic phase. At Medellin, we had opportunities to continue awarding or inviting the population to be part of the creation of these postcards actively. Boys and girls were invited to be part of the project in rural contexts. We asked kids or the stakeholders involved different questions. We asked professors, if you had a book, professor, about Social Security, which should be the subjects that are part of a handbook of Social Security? We opened the spectrum, the umbrella, and the layers. So we analyzed the addition phase of the process, and we asked people, what did they think about hygiene, abuse, violence, addictions? We asked them about the content and the problems that are embedded and that could be observed in the classrooms. So this generated the general frame to the syllabus that was created and the content that's part of these handbooks. We drafted 4 books. The first one is correlated to Social Security as a core subject. It's the backbone. And Social Security is the universal right in book 1. What does Social Security mean? How do you define it? it's a universal right, but what is Social Security and where is it leading us? And the second book is the workplace environment, everything about work-related issues in in all its dimensions. So then the third book or the other book has a core subject. The topic is well-being, which is constituted by a broader spectrum of subjects that can fall into the abstract. But well-being impacts physical health, emotional health, psychological health, solidarity, and well-being in general. And just to enhance all the creation of these four handbooks, we created the fourth book that's living in a community. So that's the title, and it's a very important factor. Social beings are social beings. We don't live in isolation. We live in community. So we can create a friendly community or context that enables those elements or subjects to live in a dignified community or collective that can create bridges that reach production levels for all members of community, so we can create and build a fair uh, healthy community. So Social Security as a core subject is really opening up as an umbrella in which we can see it's multifaceted and it touches other core subjects. We see the general frame and profile. So we created a list of credits or the syllabus around Social Security. What's fundamental is that these books have been created to support other fields of development, other disciplines. So in a year, these books should be in the classrooms. They could be used by professors and kids so they can, in autonomy, read the books, and the professor has support material to give them guidance throughout the classroom development so they know when they're working on their disciplines and credits and that they have the solid information about what Social Security is, and they have that broad spectrum of core topics held in the book, or that material is contained in these four books about. We want people that are active in our societies, and when our kids are part of the productive side of life and they're in the part of the labor force, that they can be built to in a positive environment, and they're healthy, they understand what Social Security is. The books are bridged, they coexist. All the content of the four books coexist. It's very beautiful, very formal. They have a very positive visual capacity to transmit. The formal documents are also used for learning and teaching purposes, but just there's activities in the books that take us out of the box. There's exercises, there's practices that lead us to play and learn, and joyfulness is always present. We have practices for our kids so they can use their creativity and become, authors of their own storytelling. So it's these books enable us to really open our eyes to see the umbrella of strategies and analyze with different perspectives how all of the knowledge that's embraced there really is bridged in the surrounding is very important. So the characteristics of the books lead us to specify that there's a characterization of the books. There's 21 core subjects in the books. There's 7 subtopics, and we printed these books. They can be printed in all countries of all regions. So we have, you can see that the books have, you can multiply the content. So at the end of each chapter, there's like empty pages where the kids can really practice and take their knowledge to exercise. So they're mindful. Our kids are open to be very led to investigation. They can cooperate in working teams. We have in the handbooks, beautiful drawings, paintings, historic paintings, photographic content, diagrams, infographic content, and you can see all the visuals that you can find in the book. This is an example. There's paintings from different eras. We've asked the institutions that have the rights over these paintings to enable us to use these paintings and drawings. There's different styles in the content of illustration. Some paintings use like graphic styles, others are linear styles. You can see that the material is not monotonous. It's very plural. It's diverse in the style of creation. We can make these, documents more attractive. They're all different, and each book offers a major experience for the reader, and each reading experience is different. How do these books work? And I mean, there's at the end of each chapter, there's some pages that are double at the end that connect knowledge in the text, to the theory, to the practice. And that there's triggering questions that are formulated in the content of the book. When you open it, you see a question: what are human rights? And based on that question posed to the student, you can see that it correlates to the drawings, the photographic content, the footnotes. And at the end, you see that there's other like modules that you're going to see in the content of the book. And these modules, you see that there's more information that support material that asks the reader to immediately take to practice the knowledge the book bears, so they can, take that theory without and without further ado, let me focus on the next content of this other books. You see that there's a method. There's this other page of information. You can select and see all the topics and then develop the theory or the content of the chapters thoroughly. And there's also a creative practice after having read the creative content. So a child could be asked we could ask a child to read a story and be thoughtful about the content of that story, and write down a creative text. And then that could trigger another practical activity for the child. The child could paste pictures and create a collage. So after the theory or the written content, then the child can have a practice, and without, losing that creative edge. For example, in this document, you see what's written there. It contains material of another book that's My Family, My Community, and it's about how to live life in a community setting. So that there's content in both pages. You see the footnotes, the books, and then in one module you have a question that's, and what do you know? And then the child can read that, and then there's another box or that opens there, and then you see there's extra text, and the kids that read can give things a second thought and start exploring the knowledge that they already bear. Understanding this, we see that that's the construction theory implemented in a sequence of knowledge. Knowledge is built, it's not pre-digested. So to build knowledge and layer knowledge, I also have to ask my student about what's contained there. And based on assumptions, I, as a teacher, can think the child has inherited knowledge about the content that he or she has already read and that's relevant, that we're going to be debating or discussing. If you ask a child a question like what you see in that box is like, what do you know? The child will go back to the accrued knowledge that she bears and question and correlate it to the theoretical knowledge there. And I can't react based on assumptions. I can't just think or suppose that that boy or girl that's right by my side simply bears no information about the subject. In this other square that I highlight, there's the title in which you can read to think a bit. So if a child thinks a bit, you're asking the child to be mindful, to be thoughtful, to really give it a second thought. And when they read it, you see their experience, but it's correlated to a strategy that holds power. You ask a child a question of power, a question that really leads kids to be mindful and thoughtful. In this other box that I highlight in the book's content, you have the concept of the subjects, the topics. There, the title, you can read it, is as a team or work in teams. It's a collective effort, and we highlight that content, and it contains data about families and family investigations, thorough vetting for the child to ask him or herself questions. You see, the child could ask themselves, which are the causes that affect the behavior at the household? Then you can ask, well, how do you think you can re-engineer that so that situation does not repeat itself? How is a conflict that's always present in a family setting solved? So the child can think and ask which type of behaviors are really affecting the family. You see that there is an image, a picture of the 19th century there, and the painting that's a family. Depending on the subject or the topics, we select the images that correlate to the text. So we continue investigating and analyzing with creativity what the content is. Now, regarding well-being, I'm going to the well-being book. I just select them randomly. So think how this all bridges. There's emotional intelligence chapters and content. You need to work within reason, and well-being is correlated to that. And these subjects are sometimes not discussed as classrooms. Sometimes the content, we don't ask our kids about historical issues or or economy, or sometimes in some books there's no information about history. The content of the book, what's contained there is about emotions, being, human development that coexists with these other subjects that affect humanity. And when I mention humanity, first, as humans, we acknowledge ourselves as humans, and sometimes there's subjects that are not discussed at classrooms. If you want to generate a debate, to analyze and debate and reach a controversial level of discussion between a moral issue, it's like, how do I see myself? What do I identify myself with? What's the self-image and that I have about myself? So there's diverse strategies for the reader to really investigate and drill down, which is vital to raise awareness about the role we play and the set of responsibilities that we have with our bodies, with us as individuals, and the responsibilities with the surroundings, the communities, the natural context that exists. In these books, you're going to find interesting knowledge about taking care of our natural space. So you see that these documents really strengthen the knowledge that was previously processed by the reader. So they start investigating and question themselves about other subtopics. We invite the reader or the kids to compare with a matrix of data and continue their investigations. And in these books, as you can see, we're betting on opening the capacity to visualize the time frames and the horizons or terms of conditions of life. Here, subject 21. With that, we close the first book. And there's a question that's written there. It's like, where is Social Security headed? So you have to be mindful and thoughtful about Social Security's future, and how does Social Security contribute to well-being. So Social Security is not just Social Security, it's bridged to other subjects that are discussed. And how is well-being coexisting with Social Security? And everything will converge in that cross-crop analysis and that thorough understanding of what Social Security is. They're built in a model that leads us to always be in a constant construction stage. So we do this. We have the theoretical knowledge, the 2 empty pages after each chapter, so that kids take to practice what they know. So we analyze the measures of Social Security, and that gives us that opening step to even involve music and arts in the books, general culture. We think about, traveling capacities, humans' behavior, taking care of the environment. So Social Security is correlated and coexists to other subjects, and kids accrue knowledge, and that's their legacy. We invite all the readers to be active, creative, use contemporary methods. So it's not just about giving a child a quiz or a test for the child to give us direct answers. You give the child a project and ask the child, what do you know about Social Security in your country? Start investigating, get to know about the institutions that work for Social Security. Think about the benefits of Social Security. So we ask the kid who's the reader to investigate. We ask kids to develop their mission and project with a method that's really enriching for the child, for the student, because the child has to activate his or her capacity to start investigating the core subjects for the project, find truths, and become truth finders with colleagues, with their students. And then there's other guiding instruments or handouts for the professors. These handbooks for professors are clearly outlined and define all types of activities because there's a broad and a vast umbrella of possibilities. Our professors can lead our childs to create capacities to create an argument and compare matrices, there's creative writing, reading images, investigating networks. So there's a lot of strategies for professors to implement. And professors can always guide kids to use their creativity to understand social security as a backbone and the core subjects. Where is this leading us? Where are we headed? You might ask yourselves these questions. So you know that we created those images, those postcards, we created the sequence of books. And what's next? We're building a project. And the scope of the project is LATAM in its scale. It's a regional project, and we have that regional mission. So these books have been crafted with a providing us the capacity to really teach these principles at a regional scale with common content that are part of the credits and the syllabus of our region. So we're going to take these books to a trial phase, to a pilot phase. We're going to implement it with the member countries, with our allies. So that pilot phase implicitly means that we have to use workshops to teach the teacher how to use the guiding instrument with the strategies and the methods. So with these workshops, we're going to teach the teachers how to become proper teachers, to explain to the children what social security is, how to examine the subjects of social security in the classroom and the core subjects that coexist with that. Then we'll follow up in the implementation of the trial phase in the classroom. So we're going to select classrooms that have in a rural setting. We are going to take these books in a rural environment, and we're going to follow up and track the outputs to see how they're using the handbooks, the books, and the difficulties or the challenges that our professors are facing. The books have been drafted for authorship, for technical publications and authorship of these types of books. So this is one path, and the books are object. Anything can be questioned. So if there's amendments to the books, we're going to have the trial phase for the books and the amendments in the right phase because we're receiving feedback and observations from the professors to assess the professor's experience. How clean cut is it? Are we specific enough?
What are the images that are really working and that are appropriate for these readers? With all this information, then we can consider that the project is feasible for a parallel curricula for social security that can be scaled up in other countries of the region, but they will have the foundations of this assessment and all the changes that as a result of this evaluation. And I think this is what I wanted to share with you. So this is what I wanted to share with you about this initiative. I commend the conference for supporting this work. Many stakeholders took part in this. Different experts like Krishna in the first stage provided us with a lot of information. They help us to review and to amend the books, and different experts on designing textbook, design teams, illustrators, documents experts that were looking for different sources to look for all these images and ask for the corresponding permits. The graphic designers were focusing on textbooks, and then the assessment, the evaluation of teachers and other experts, because the idea was to have a very robust material with our candid and honest information in order to convey the social reality of our countries. Thank you so much.
Hola, muchísimas gracias, Manuel.
Thank you so much, Manuel. I think that we have a great coordination. Krishna, you have the floor before you leave. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you so much to the CIS. Congratulations for this great event. Congratulations, Fanuel. Congratulations to all the team. I was just thinking about the relevance of this project. Many times we discussed that social security systems have been evolving for more than 100 years in Latin America. The CISS has been created, it was created 80 years ago, but they have been facing historic challenges and other challenges that overcome the social security matters. Well, with this project, we hope to raise awareness in the new generations about social security in order for them to be able to demand their rights now and in the future so they can demand to their social security entities all their rights. And these handbooks could become the starting point for the next leaders of social security matters in Latin America. Congratulations for this project. I am Krishna Chukatla, and thank you. This is what I wanted to share with you.
Gracias, Krishna. Muchísimas gracias. Bueno,
Thanks so much, Krishna.
pues con esto terminamos la parte que se va a transmitir en vivo.
So this is the end of our live presentation. In the headquarters, we are going to continue with a private event that is going to be recorded, but it's not going to be broadcasted live. Thank you all for being with us. And you can follow us in our social media, keep in touch, and